Yeah, be careful what they say now with Anna.
Thank you.
That's fine.
Wait, so the person I keep referring to it as your son and so
They
forth.
didn't tell you what was wrong with Zoom?
The guy that was. Yeah.
She just signed in and it
Well,
just.
day afterward.
Really?
Mhm.
Okay. Hey.
Following back to town, make the rest back to the village.
We got it all online. We got it all online. Somehow we got it screwed up. So,
I just thought it was interesting with everything.
well, with Sally's father passing away, she's been out. And it's just been one of those things.
Meganer.
The Meganator.
Oh.
Oh, that's
Wow.
awful.
No,
That's not now. That's a.
No.
That's a hard.
dip it in the pot, dip it in the
It's a
pot.
hard no.
Sorry.
Okay.
One chair.
My husband isn't better than everything, because over the years, dogs, the children, everybody had 400 names. Everybody he comes in contact with gets a name, a nickname, another nickname, a derivative nickname.
A terrific nickname.
Oh,
Yeah,
May.
yes, I understand.
You're a little, you know.
Is it not gonna be? I can't do it whenever I
You have a non, I have a non-red pen.
I feel
Oh,
like
it's during the
that's scared.
Yeah.
I mean,
Either
send
one.
the message you want.
Yep.
Maybe
Same as
we'll.
last year. Right, no, that was a different group.
Now, this will be a retirement.
Oh.
And I told them that I would check into the space reservation, but that somebody else has to do the rest of it.
Like 20 years old?
Yeah,
What, you don't want to go costume?
well,
You doing a retirement party?
not for myself. That would be,
fun to plan.
that would-
I didn't know if you were playing at Sally's.
no,
I got a call from
not
Karen.
planning-
We need to do that.
Yes,
Start planning.
and you said yes, right?
I said, yes, we're gonna do something. I told her to call Megan.
I was like,
Now I have to.
Beth's on her way
It's an event, I'll plan.
Okay.
at the light.
Mhm.
That's right here. Your name.
Okay, what's going on here? This, let me get this ready. Get it together, Anna.
Are they nice? Yeah.
Well,
I've already signed, so when is next? Megan.
Our letter with, that's
Are they
all
gonna
fixed.
explain this packet of information?
Say what?
They're gonna explain this.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, great.
Okay, we'll call this meeting to order.
It's just because I didn't speak number, but now I'm okay.
The first part of this meeting is our public hearing to receive public comment on the 2025-2026 Village of Canton preliminary draft of the proposed village budget for this fiscal year starting June 1, 2025. This budget calls for a slight decrease in village taxes with a levy growth of 0.66%. This preliminary budget includes water and sewer rate increases. For instance, the increase on a residential account for usage from 0 to 50,000 gallons will be $1.09 per 1,000 gallons of drinking water and $1.37 per 1,000 gallons of sewer, with similar increases throughout the rate schedule. In addition, this budget includes wage increases for the mayor and trustees. Copy of the proposed budget was available at the office and was posted online. The budget message, I handed a copy to the press already, and you should have all seen it in the drive.
Mhm.
Kind of lays it out a little bit more thoroughly about how we were able to keep the tax rate slightly lower than what it was. And kept the tax levy, well within, it was under a 1%. We ended up using a fund balance of $119,734. The reason for that was because, Meg managed to find a mistake in a calculation. So, when she did that, we, made a couple of adjustments, which I sent out to you. And, we decided that the best way to deal with this was to use some of the fund balance. We had done that last year in our, budget. And at this point, we have not had to use it, so I would expect we may be in a similar spot, going into the next budget year. You know, again, I've, explained in the budget message that, you know, we've had to anticipate, you know, New York State minimum wage mandated increases that affect us. And we're expecting another, increase on January 1. We still don't know for sure our CHIPS and AIM funding, so that has an effect on all of us.
Mhm.
You know, we've talked about the increase in water and sewer. You know, we are faced with substantial upgrades that are underway now for aging infrastructure, well into the past the design stages for our sewer projects. And water projects are underway also, so we have to anticipate for those projects, and all users will need to fund those necessary upgrades. Of course, we're looking for grant funding for all of it. That has been discussed. We're also looking at the possibility of finding other ways to express how our bills work in terms of fixed costs versus variable costs, and how there may be some ways that we could reward people for saving or conserving. So, with that being said, I also illustrated, you know, how much of this budget is accounted for in payroll and benefits. 59% of our budget equates to payroll and benefits that our village employees benefit from. Healthcare, everybody contributes to healthcare. It makes a small dent in the whole overall cost, but again, there were increases this year, almost 5%, and we expect more again in January. So capital equipment, we managed to take the original amount that was over $800,000 and get it down to funding about $450,000. So I think that everyone did a fine job putting this together, and reviewed it, but now it's time for public comment, if there is any.
That's perfect timing.
What was that, gum?
It was, no, it was a canner.
Oh, can, oh. What are you drinking?
got some frosty one, Anna, huh? I think we got some giddy people in the room. This is what we get for meeting so early. Right? People
Is
have
there
no food.
any public comment? Any board member like to make a comment?
Appreciate everybody's efforts.
Absolutely. Second.
Oh, for sure.
That's all.
So do we get to wait 10 minutes?
Well, just give
Do
it a chance and-
Yeah. Chit chat.
before we get started.
First time
And
through all this, and, like, it was eye-opening and very
Yes, I
educational.
Like a bunch of-
there's quite a bit of effort that goes into it.
Yeah, for sure.
You know,
ton of effort.
all the department heads put their requests together. And then the finance committee sits down with each department head and sifts through it, makes recommendations, and I think it streamlined the process a little bit this year. I think it worked to our advantage. But I thank everyone that was involved in it. No public comment.
Well, we didn't go 10% over the,
No. I will mention that once we start the regular meeting, that, we will have a presentation from Waterworth. They are a company that we are working with now to help us with, how we anticipate or plan for these expenses that are coming forward with water and sewer. They will show us an example of, how we can, work with what we know with sewer and, how the budgeting process can work and how we can do some planning and modeling. And how we can adapt, our rates in a way that makes sure we're sustainable.
Mhm.
In the past, we haven't really guessed at it, but we've looked at it and thought, well, we gotta increase this, but we're gonna be able to model much better. And anticipate what our needs are gonna be, so.
Feel like my new bill was very accurate. Now, this is second cycle. I think I've been on my switched over meter.
Yeah.
And it seems accurate. It seems less sort of all over the place, which is.
Well, this, budget also includes wrapping up the purchase of, those meters.
Mhm.
So that we can get the rest of our, customers up to, that type of, radio read.
Right,
It's more accurate.
it's definitely
Um,
more accurate, I would say.
And it helps us when there's a dispute because they can go and read that meter and they can, really look and
Right,
show
middle of the
someone
night.
where, where their leaks may have been at what time of the day and things. So I know that the office that's handling that has found that to be, very helpful.
It just showcases how many people live in my house.
Well, well, but it also showcases that, a person that was complaining didn't realize that the garden got watered at a certain time of day. Oh,
Right.
okay,
Right.
now I understand. So anyways, that was just an example, but the meters are more accurate, we're more efficient with, getting the work done. We know there's other things that we can be doing instead of
Mhm.
wandering, trying to read meters, so,
Mhm.
it's much more efficient. A lot of other things to be done in this community that, will free up those people.
That's great.
So,
And where, I know we asked this the last time, but I don't remember the answer. Where about are we at with how many, what percentage approximately have been converted?
You've gotta be over halfway.
Or over
Yeah.
half? Okay, just curious.
we budgeted for another, I think, $138,000 to wrap that up.
Yes, right.
So-
That was-
Okay, one more opportunity for public comment. Going once. Going twice, nobody else has signed in up there?
Cindy.
Okay. Okay, maybe we'll start the regular meeting a little early. If that's okay with you?
Is that legal?
Sure.
Okay.
You wanna sit here and look at each
They
other for 5
don't, but
minutes?
I mean.
It's only 5 minutes, but.
There's an equal plan.
Wait,
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
Well, we can. check that out.
Coming in waving her copy of the preliminary budget. Wait a minute.
Well, if somebody, we can, if somebody comes in.
well, we advertised when it was gonna start, so it's,
That's fine.
And you didn't get any emails?
I did not get any emails. Well, I got a lot of emails, but it wasn't
Not about that.
wasn't about the budget.
Best to clarify.
We're under that 2% and it's not outrageous, some other,
No, we haven't had to
Everyone's lucky.
override or anything.
Have to find out.
right, and some other communities haven't been that lucky, so. So thanks for all the hard work, really,
Really?
because that's not what. Our neighbors are.
Okay,
Yeah.
that was Lee.
Mhm.
Yep.
Nobody's sneaking up on us.
Hi,
Hi, Lee.
okay. Why don't we move into the regular part of our meeting? First order of business, I just will call your attention to two items that are additional on the agenda was the water wars presentation and a village, 2025 NBRC resolution. I had put that in the drive, but I just want to mention that that was added. First order of business is to approve minutes of March 19th.
They weren't in the drive.
I put them in,
Um,
Mm.
didn't I?
I don't think so.
killing me.
I just assumed we weren't gonna have them.
Well, we won't. We'll do it
So do
for,
that then. It's all good.
I thought they were there.
Moving on.
It's okay.
It's not-
Our
not the end
computers
of
went
the
down today.
Of course they did.
Yes, Meg and mine.
Both of your computers.
Yeah,
Oh,
goodness.
awesome.
it was,
That's helpful.
Fun time.
yeah. Mhm.
Well, I don't know what I did
Okay.
then because I thought I had thrown them in there, so.
Well, there could be worse things. It'll be okay.
Okay, well, then we'll move on. Before we do anything else, we will, have, Waterworth give us a presentation of, how the system works. You should have all received, a packet that had some of their, slides on it.
Yeah.
You wanna introduce?
Sure. So, Waterworth is, I think they'll probably talk a little bit about who they are and what they do, but, Tim, Bacon got in touch with them. And our, front office has been working with them to input data about our water and sewer, billing and the projects that we that are underway and that we are planning for in order to do all of the upgrades that we have been discussing for months. And so, as the mayor said at the beginning of the meeting, the tool that they are going to present and the data that they're going to present is really designed to help us be able to plan and project. And so I think that's probably, I probably will have more to say, but we'll turn it over to Calvin and Aaron. Thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor and board for the invitation and the opportunity here. Can everyone hear me all right?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, my name is Calvin Coles. I'm with our client success team here at Waterworth alongside Aaron as well. Like we've been talking about, this meeting so far, you've been looking at your budget, and what Waterworth basically does is it allows you to say, okay, well, it's really important to be able to look at next year's budget and be able to plan properly and understand where costs are coming in and being as careful as possible and strategic as possible when planning that budget. Sometimes it's difficult to know the effect of that budget when you start to look 10 years, 15 years down the road. And as we know, there's a lot of aging infrastructure, there's a lot of capital projects that need to happen. Things like your new, more accurate meters going into your system. It's going to, improve leaks and allow people more granularity into how they're seeing their water use and being able to make adjustments. And so there's a whole lot of moving parts when it comes to your water system and your wastewater system. And what we have is an online tool that basically allows you to take your current budget as well as some actuals from historical and project them off into the future and have sort of a living, breathing, long-term financial model. So, I'd like to give it up for your staff as well as Aaron on our end for sort of gathering this data, pulling it into our tool, doing some careful analysis as to what these numbers mean and what they're going to look like, or our best guess at what they're going to look like into the future. And then looking at what that has as an effect on your cash position, your overall fund balances over time, and then being able to say, okay, well, based on X information coming in, we can throw in some scenarios of potential funding for projects, potential adjustments to rates that allows you to manage that and keep your funds sustainable in the long run. So putting it shortly, this is just kind of a tool to help you plan better. And you can imagine, what you're doing here, what we're going to show you for your water and wastewater, the same sort of thing could apply to your general fund or to any other, parks and recreation or any other sort of funds that you have. You can model them out in the same way. So that's me telling you a lot and not really showing you anything. So I'm going to get Erin to share her screen and walk you through some of the work that's been done here.
All right. It looks like I needed to request permission to share, so might just need, there we go. Thank you. Okay. Can everybody see that all right?
Yep.
Okay. So we're going to start off just by showing the wastewater model today. So this is the wastewater long-term financial model that Calvin was just talking about. And in order to explain it, I'm going to kind of break it down piece by piece, and that's going to kind of mimic the different slides in that packet you would have received. So first of all, on the y-axis here, we have dollar amounts, and on the x-axis here, we have time in years. So the first portion of our visuals here are the operating expenses. So those show up in a bit of a dark blue. And we have the last couple years of actuals, as well as the current budget with a 3% inflation applied to that, going off into the future, those projections that Calvin was talking about. We also have a little bit of current debt service that shows up as a little thin blue line, as well as some proposed debt service that you'll see is associated to a proposed loan. And that shows up in a bit of a lighter blue. And finally, on top of that, we have our capital improvements. So that's kind of the big mountain that you see here. So these are the capital improvements that you've kind of been talking about. Projected right now, we've got them all lumped into 2025. And all of this together makes up the revenue requirements for the long-term financial model. So this all represents, how much you're going to need to be spending on a year-to-year basis. Now, layering on top of that, we can bring in our revenues. So those are going to show up as kind of bars in the foreground. So the first one is the sale of sewer service, which is represented by a gold bar. And then we have other operating revenue, any developer contributions, non-operating revenue. And then the two big ones here are any grants are going to show up in dark blue, and borrowed funds are going to show up in magenta as well. And so those borrowed funds here, that's what's being associated with that light blue proposed debt service. And so this all together kind of makes up the expenses versus the revenues for the model. And the quickest way to easily understand what you're looking at here in terms of your cash position is to just compare how the bars stack up to the background expenses. So for instance, if we take a quick look at the 2022 year here, might be a little difficult to see because of the scale, but the revenue bar is actually a bit higher than the background expenses here. So that represents a surplus for that year. So you're going to be making more money than you're spending. But if we look ahead for a projected year here, like 2027, let's say, you can actually see that your revenues are coming in a bit lower than your background expenses. And in this scenario, this is mainly due to that debt service that you'd be taking on by receiving this loan in 2025. So what that does is it obviously has an effect on your cash position, which then has an effect on the cash position line in Waterworth, which I'll layer on now. So you can see that the way that this model works is that anytime you have that surplus, the bars are higher than the background, you're making money, your cash position goes up. And similarly, when we have those gaps, it just slowly but surely drags that cash position line down. So that's kind of the quickest way to just look at the model, look at Waterworth, and just visually understand what's going on with the finances and our best projections for the future. And the last little component to the model is the cash position target and the operating threshold. So I'll start with the operating threshold. It's this red dotted line. And what this represents is 25% of your operating expenses on a yearly basis. So it's just calculating that number year to year and then drawing that red dotted line there. And really why we have this in the model is to kind of represent like a lower limit of where you want your cash to be at any given time. So you never really want to see your cash position line dropping below that operating threshold. And finally, we have our cash position target, which is a black dotted line. And that kind of represents where you'd like to see your cash kind of hovering around or oscillating around. So ideally, occasionally you will have a little bit less than the cash position target once you've had to spend some of your money, and then you slowly start to build up that reserve and your cash position line will rise above the target, and then a project will come up and it'll dip down again. So that's kind of the overall behavior that we're aiming to have the cash position line follow. And that's the purpose of those two dotted lines there. They kind of act as like guardrails, if you will, for the cash position line. And that is the total financial model. Are there any questions about anything I just explained there before I move on to our scenario that we've prepared today?
Anybody?
I have a vocabulary question, about hang on. Where'd you go? Non-operating revenue in the context of water? What is that? What does that mean?
In the context of water, it would be the same for wastewater as well. Typically, what we use for non-operating revenue that represents like any interest income that you might have coming in on your reserves or any investments or anything like that. That's one of the main uh, revenues that we assign to that category.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And we are focusing on sewer because there's some known debt that we're taking on here.
Right.
So it's easy to say, okay, these are very well-known numbers in terms of grants and, bonding. We know what it's gonna cost us, so it's easy for us to say, okay, this is the model that we can easily explain.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. So the scenario that we've prepared is just including a couple of rate increases. So something I actually didn't mention was the scenario before that just assumed that your sale of sewer service revenue is staying the same every year. It's not increasing. And so what we've done in this scenario is introduced some potential numbers for rate increases. And so this scenario has let me see here, it's a 15% increase in 2026, followed by an 8% increase in 2027, and then 5% increases after that, just to keep up with inflation and to make sure that your revenues are staying in line with those operating expenses there. So as you can see now in this potential solution, the scenario that we've created, our revenue bars in the future are actually stacking up quite nicely with our expenses in the background. And that's the reason why our cash position line is actually following this target quite nicely rather than dropping off into the negatives as it was in the previous, the baseline scenario. And that's pretty much all I had to show visually on my end. Calvin and I are happy to answer any questions or facilitate any kind of discussion that you'd like to have around what I've just showed you.
Questions, board?
I'm wondering if it's worth looking at or worth at least just touching on that this is a model that's covering the costs that you're known in 2025 for capital projects, but you'll see in the model that there's currently no future capital projected beyond there. So there could be maybe staff can touch on it. There could be some additional projects that have to happen in the future that are going to be additional pressures on the fund, but this is basically just tackling this big project at first.
And I think that's what's nice about being able to work with this type of program is because then we can input,
Right.
things as they come along and
Right.
see what the effect is and plan better.
Right.
So that's the object of the whole thing.
Very helpful.
It's nice to be able to,
Like the color.
well, it's nice to be able to use data to drive our decisions.
Yes.
As
Yeah.
opposed to the dartboard, yes.
And that's, yes.
So I think that's an important piece
Mhm.
Right,
and why we see the value in this.
yeah. Well, it can showcase them.
And so the
Challenge.
tool,
Right.
would it allow you to try some different numbers on rate increases and see the effect?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that is great.
Yeah.
That-
Right.
That's
So
exactly
what
you need.
what you see in the presentation, right, is sort of the result of, okay, putting the wastewater treatment plant upgrades, right? That's our $13.5 million
Right.
project. Hopefully, we close on the 24th as planned with our 0% financing for 30 years. We have the grant money in there. If we were to get more grant money, I mean, once projects start, that's hard, but
Right.
if we were, then we would be able to go back into the model and say, all right, we've got this grant money. How can we then adjust
Sure.
rates?
Yeah.
And then I think also Calvin's point too is prescient, which is to say that obviously this is not the only capital project that's gonna have to happen. So, this will allow us to sort of
For
plan.
planning,
Yeah.
Well, and then you can just say, here's what happens, okay,
Mhm.
first,
Yeah.
again.
And I do think that the visual is helpful, and I was kind of being flip about the colors, but it actually
Oh,
does
no.
delineate,
Yes.
what the dynamics are and,
Mhm.
what challenges we face.
Mhm.
Right.
And I think that that can be really helpful, so.
And so I think the mayor mentioned this at the beginning, but you know, we're working with this on the water side too, right? I mean, we, as we're trying to sort through what projects
Right.
we're, and how we can put them in order and fund them as we go. You know, obviously from the agenda, we've got grant applications going out, so.
But this is just makes decision-making a whole lot more reliable.
Yep.
And some of us are visual and we like that.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And explanations, right? So the decision making, but then providing the explanation and being able to.
data-driven models. are great.
Data-driven decision making.
Yeah.
Especially with yourselves being, you know, elected officials, it's the way we frame it is like you're basically entrusted by the public to be able to make good decisions. And in order to make good decisions, you need more data, and you need to be able to, you don't want to just look at a wall of numbers. You need to be able to visually represent the differences and be able to do scenario planning and do everything you can for the good of your community.
And that's why data science has exploded across.
They did.
Okay, did we lose them?
No, they're there.
Okay,
You kind of cut off there at the end, Calvin. That's why we all look
Oh.
inquisitive right now.
I was trying to
Um,
say something eloquent, but it didn't happen.
You know what? Heard.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so thank you very much. You know, and I appreciate the login, Erin. I'll be connecting with you for a little training.
Yeah, please do anytime.
the board have any other questions for them?
I'm good for now.
Okay,
This is great. Thank you.
thank you very much. We appreciate you
Very helpful.
being here for us.
Yes,
Thanks for having
everybody.
us. Bye-bye.
We'll be in touch. Okay, we'll move on. We will go to department head reports. No, I'm sorry. Yes,
Yes.
I'm confused here.
Yeah,
My mistake.
you got it.
We'll fix that. Okay, let's see, who's first? Ooh, treasurer. Any questions for Meg? She's been very
I
busy.
was gonna say,
And-
we've been asking her a lot, so.
And I thank her and actually the whole office for everything they've done.
Mm.
And with Sally being gone this week, they've stepped up. So I'd like to thank them for that.
Thank you. Yes, we appreciate that.
Okay, who's next here? Oh, that's treasurer. What did I miss? Code.
Well, I have nothing to add to my report. Anybody have any questions for me?
No, okay. Well, let's see, who's next? How about Lee?
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I don't think I have anything to add either. There's a resolution I think you have on there later.
Anything for Lee?
Did we get your report mentioned something about, now I'm blanking on exactly what, about the RFP for the LWRP?
We haven't released it yet.
It's
in draft form.
Okay, still waiting on Department of State. Okay,
We just have to finalize it.
okay.
And that hasn't gone to the WAC for a look over yet, has it? That you know of?
Anything else? Well, moving right along, historian, oh, there he is. Hi, Casey, how are you? Not too bad, how's things down there?
Good. Nothing to add to the board unless anybody has questions for me.
Thanks for the cemetery information.
No, that was so interesting.
It is.
I was gonna say that as well, and also I'm glad that folks are coming to the evening hours,
Yeah.
because that was something that people had requested, so thank you for hosting them, and I'm glad people are taking advantage.
Of course.
Okay, Ryan is not here. He's at
You
some,
might be on
is he on night?
there.
Yeah.
I'm here, I'm virtual.
Ryan, how are you? You did say
Good,
you
how
were
are
gonna.
you?
Anything to add?
Nothing to add.
Okay, any questions for Ryan? We have another item a little further down in the agenda for a new officer,
Kind of
so,
a big item.
okay. Working our way down here, rec, how's that? Megan,
Why
with an
stop-
H.
Why stop now? I have nothing to add. Anybody has any questions? happy to answer them.
I'm getting to like this meeting.
Minutes are gonna be great.
Any questions for Megan?
No, seemed like a productive ice season.
Yeah, for sure.
So. And that,
Transition.
and that you're right on into the, yeah, I was gonna say the transition, so.
Yeah. Indoor projects before the grass starts growing.
Yep.
Are you still hoping for snow?
Yes, I don't mind snow.
Oh,
Give
Yeah,
me more time.
dear.
Today anyway.
Tim,
Um,
you're a busy man.
yeah, sign an agreement with the New York State DOT to sweep the streets, state roads through the village. They asked that.
We're gonna do that.
So we were gonna do that. I didn't put that on here, so I actually just did that
Okay.
today. And a lot of people have been asking when we're gonna get the sweeper out. Apparently, it's this plow and then the sweeper goes right behind it. So, Just started.
Right here.
Just started to speak.
I've noticed that, and there's a lot of sand out there.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
People are, no shortage of people reminding you of that.
Yeah, it's funny.
It's amazing how that goes.
Melissa, it was a hard winter. We needed the sand, right?
Yes.
It's all gonna be
And
good.
it's not over, right?
Yeah, there's a Mother's Day yet.
I know.
We've had snow on Mother's
They-
Day.
Accumulating stuff. May
Sorry.
14th.
Just out of curiosity, what happens to that sand once it's scooped off the street?
Goes to a place where we dump like our composting stuff and that kind of thing. Has leaves in it around me and sticks, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
No,
Right.
that's
No.
all washed away.
oh, okay.
And road. Other
Okay, anything else for Tim? Cindy?
Hi, good evening.
Hi,
Speaking
how
of,
are you?
speaking of sand and warm weather, everybody think warm weather. I drove on ice this morning. I was like, what is this? All right, anyway, my report, I can explain my report and still going out. There were a bunch of parcels that had land with improvements, and I wanted to go look at those parcels. I said it's about 100, got half of them done. The county data collector has been going with me. We've been running aerial maps so we could see where those structures are on those parcels. If we could get a picture, we're taking a picture. If I can't, get to where it is, then there's an aerial shot that will be put with the property record card. Things look really good. I finished the assessment roll for 2025, and as we're talking now, it's being printed down at the county. So I should be picking that up sometime by the end of this week, or Monday or Tuesday. Everything balanced, we're in good shape. And there was a lot of activity, especially in the village for the permits, and Tim could vouch for that. There was a lot of permits in the village this past year, more than the town. So we'll see. So we'll see how that goes. That's basically it. Next month, Gar will be here, and they'll be doing their presentation, and that's about it. Haven't heard much yet. There'll be things they wanted me to go over. We were talking to them a couple of weeks ago, and they were looking at like edit reports, and that was what I told you when I first came in. There were over like 500 edits when I came in, and I've been cleaning them up. And like I said, things were not matching. The land was put out a half an acre, it was showing up on the other site as 0.65. So I was taking care of a lot of that. So hopefully there won't be as much edits to have to review that they're going to give to me. So I think we're in pretty good shape. I really do. I have been hearing from property owners here in Canton. They want to know about, the reval and everything, and so I can't, Garth's doing it, and I told them to come to the meeting. They'll be here next month. If they have any questions, to come, and so there might be a bunch of property owners coming on the next meeting at the town board. So does anybody have any questions for me? No.
I guess not. Thank you, Cindy.
Okay, you're welcome.
Kind of boardwalk.
I don't think I missed anybody. Animal control, I didn't find a report. Did you find one? Okay. So, with that being said, need a motion to approve department head reports.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Committee reports. We have any committees out there?
Nope. I do communications and technology. We had a brief meeting. Two things, big things we talked about. We now can see the chamber calendar from our website. It's this great link. It works great. You just click one click and you're in the chamber with all the Canton events pre-screened for you. So that was a great addition. And we had been discussing whether or not to be able to have multiple alerts on the front page, basically to cover information about the reval, since that's a lot of people have questions and will be having questions. And the way we're currently configured, we could only have one alert. But for $375 split between the town and the village, we could have multiple alerts. So we all agreed that we should do that.
Yeah, that's great.
So the village is whatever happened.
Okay.
375 is 380 something. 87.5. Or
187.50,
Yeah,
maybe?
I think. So,
Works for me.
yeah, I think you just never know,
And it's an annual fee.
no,
No.
a one-time shot to do the.
Oh, that's a
It's
no-brainer.
just for them to do the programming for it.
For
then,
to have.
And-
multiple
Yep.
alerts, yeah.
And then
Did you-
we can always have multiple alerts.
The thing,
Yeah.
the thing with the reval, we're gonna need that up for a period of time, but a lot of things can happen where you want another alert to come up.
Mhm.
You don't want it to take one down and put one up and. So you can have multiple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a no-brainer.
Yeah, it wasn't hard. It didn't take a long time to go to that conclusion.
Okay.
So that's pretty much it for communications and technology. Sustainability, I will hand you out our little brochure, board member.
And I
They're
think this
pretty.
was developed for the Sustainable Living Fair.
Yeah.
That was held on the 12th of April.
Rebecca Rivers did
Rebecca
that
Rivers,
for
yeah.
us, but it was there to be handed out. And another event I just want to bring people's attention to is the repair fair. Everybody familiar with the repair fair? Megan's been helping get them organized, set up at the pavilion. It's gonna be May 2nd.
May 3rd.
May 3rd,
Sorry.
sorry. No,
So
May 3rd, May
It's a
3rd. Don't
Saturday?
Yep.
At the Saturday 10 to 2. And what it is there are going to be volunteer experts and that will fix things or give you advice on how to fix things. So you can bring your thing that needs to be fixed. Or just bring a good description of your problem. So that if you would like
It has
to be.
real possibilities.
I know. Please.
Oh, boy.
Go back to the, I'm a visual.
Uh-oh.
Oh, boy.
Might wanna.
So if there's anybody out there that wants to be an expert, And that just might be you have a hobby that you're good at. I mean, it doesn't mean that you're like employed at this one thing. We all know people who can sew or who can, you know, make repairs to clothing or can fix motors, and that's not their job, but they're the person you always go and find when you need help. So if anybody wants to volunteer, you can do it 3 ways. There's sign-up sheets at the library and at Coakley's, or sustaincanton@gmail.com. And this is a thing, repair fairs that have happened, different places. Some people on the sustainability committee are familiar with them from other locations. And it's just another way to just not throw everything away. We can fix a lot of things, we just don't know how. So they're spreading the knowledge. And just free and.
So it's free
They have
from
some
you.
nice
People coming.
And they have some,
You can like bring your lawnmower. They have a small
Really?
repair guy
Nice.
coming.
I mean, she means skilled.
Yeah,
Right?
like
Yeah, I think, you know, we've all had that thing, you don't wanna buy a
it's
new
like
one,
anything,
you don't wanna buy a new of whatever it is, but
blender
you,
or whatever.
yeah, you can't find someone to fix it, or you can't fix it, so.
I
that's what-
forgot her name, but did somebody contact you? They wanted to interview you about that.
Yes, Jody Tosti,
Okay, thank you.
Kathy Shreves.
Awesome.
I may break something.
Just to bring it in.
Just to bring it, fix me.
It's a test.
Yeah.
Okay,
So anyway,
do have a
that's you know, a subset of sustainability's been working on that, so. That would be.
Okay.
Fantastic project.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
the event is free, and then are there people there who actually you can potentially hire?
It isn't about hiring, it's more about spreading the knowledge. I mean,
Understood, but
I-
if in the future.
well, I mean, that's between you and the person there. Sustainability, not getting in the middle of that.
You feel, you hear me?
Yeah,
You're
absolutely.
laughing at me, but you hear me.
You're like, I don't want to fix it. I want to fix it.
Well, right.
I feel that way.
Well,
but
do you have a mechanically inclined child? Bring them along and say, this is your new job.
There you go.
We've been assigned a chore.
This is a detailed question, but presume there's somebody doing bike repair or no?
Yeah.
I have.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
They mentioned bike repair.
Yeah.
So it's like a lot of, you know, bring your broken lamp and your broken bike.
Yeah.
On your broken bike.
Yeah.
Is that,
Grassfitter Outfitters does bike.
that they do.
okay. Well, let's move along.
Let's move along. So those.
Speaking of
things
bikes,
bring-
let's do.
All
the
right.
pencils.
And it cascaded into that's a question.
Rec, we had a meeting since I think our last.
Yes, we
meeting.
have two.
Two meetings.
I was gonna say.
That's right. So, which Megan covered in her report for the most part. So
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
don't know that I need to add anything. Unless you think of something that I don't know.
Well, golf is meant to.
Golf has met, you know, a lot of changes happening there, but thank you, Tim,
Yes,
for
thank you, Tim.
becoming, taking on another whole job. But I think we're moving in a good direction and.
Getting a little more sun, a little more wind.
I got sunburn one day.
Yeah,
What the heck?
so
Okay.
barring any, head exploding over here from the superintendent's office, I feel like it must be going well.
Yeah.
As
perfect.
best as we can expect, given that there's been a lot
Yeah.
of, change. So
Okay.
Under control.
appreciate all your efforts, Tim.
Yes, 100%.
Building a job board as we speak.
There we go, multitasking. So I think in your report, you said the food is,
Concession.
concession are opening or?
Yeah, he didn't give me a date. I
Okay,
was just
okay.
talking to him earlier and I said, it's not a big deal. I'm looking at this forecast too.
You're right.
And it's rain into
It's
the
snowing.
weekend.
It's 40.
No.
degrees,
So
yeah,
they might
not
be
like-
trying to do like a soft opening coming into the weekend. I said, I'm not really concerned
This weekend or next weekend?
this coming weekend.
Okay.
So said, I'm not really concerned. Look at the weather. This kind of
Right.
weather, we don't get a lot of action out there right now,
Right.
so.
Yeah, it's also Easter weekend and a lot of people. are taking
Right.
off.
So,
And school
it was
vacation,
into
That's
next,
what I mean.
Yeah.
A lot of people are taking off.
right.
the great migration.
Yes. I am part of that.
Yeah.
Okay,
So that's it for me.
Kara?
Complete Streets Task Force is moving along with discussions about wayfinding signage, pointing a route for for pedestrians and cyclists between Taylor Park and Remington Recreational Trail. We had a meeting with Tim today, going out tomorrow with Tim to potentially scout locations for signs and signposts and figure out where those things can, sort of piggyback with existing signs. Of course, the understanding there is that it all needs to be integrated into whatever, sign projects are going on, that might be related to New York Forward. The map kiosks, again, still more discussions about which ones to relocate and where to relocate them. Again, ongoing discussion with Tim. Tim Bacon, to be clear about that. And, there's been some discussion, this is more on the town side of things, about, extending the green striping on the road shoulder from the village, to the top of the cemetery hill on Minor Street Road.
Yeah.
That's the main gist of everything that's going on for them.
Okay. Coming around the table.
Well, we've met, safety.
Yeah, we have
committee's met
a
several
piece on
times,
here.
And we
yeah.
have it later, so,
Good.
I can talk more about it then.
Okay, so, economic development, we met, we've been talking about sort of priorities, Economic Development Office just has a ton going on already, so there's a certain kind of way that, we're not exactly looking for a new project, but there are, but, there are ongoing issues. There are, ongoing projects to work on. And so just sort of talking about those in connection to the comprehensive plan. And then, talking about grants, those in process, those that are likely to become in process once, we have a budget and, all the release of those programs come to us. I think that was all for economic development, though. Infrastructure, you've already seen some of that, with the Waterworth. But also, continuing to work on stormwater and drinking water, and you will see, you see resolutions on the agenda for those, for grants for those. That might be it for infrastructure, really,
Okay.
that I'm thinking about. I'm not done yet, though. So, sorry.
I'm trying.
So, and then just to say, Finance Committee has also met, both in relationship to the budget, but also we met and had the presentation from Waterworth. And talked with Waterworth about, how to do all of the modeling and such, before this meeting. And then Building Committee met. And we talked about we talked about paving, we talked about sustainability proposal for 64 Main items, which will be on the joint meeting agenda. So now I'm done.
Took my thunder on that one, but thank you. No, it's good. Okay, nothing else? Oh, we'll move on. Communications and information, Cindy brought it up, but there's a reminder, the town board would like us to attend their May 14th town board meeting and the GAR presentation.
At 6.
I think it's 6 o'clock that they meet. I can get a reminder out to you.
6 o'clock, 6 to 8.
Just so that, we hear the same thing they hear from GAR in the presentation. I've already heard from people, knocking at my door. You're gonna need to be quite an education piece.
Well, I took a stab at that. Which, if you're gonna look at that,
Okay.
because I think, when I talk to people and Ann and I just, people don't get how it works at all, so.
The calculation.
Right, and that's the thing about the calculation, and then there's an exam, 2
Oh, okay,
examples,
good.
so. It's a work in progress, but we,
Might put some like arrows
yeah, I
in and,
haven't figured out how to do the arrows yet, but
Yeah,
we
but-
can.
yeah, and then it might, I don't know. An
Anyway,
explainer.
this is a draft, but I think we need a very basic explainer like this to so people get the process.
Okay,
Any
well,
advanced media that might be going along with that?
there's some good.
Yeah, we may do a YouTube.
There's quite a bit of information out there that we're gonna try to, bring forward. It's always, it's a difficult thing sometimes. Everybody has some preconceived notions about what it's about, and I think that education will be key. I know Cindy has done a tremendous amount of work.
So much
and that-
work.
And that makes a huge difference
Yeah.
in the result and
Absolutely.
the understanding. So, we're along for the ride. This is something that the town has to do. But, we wanna be there, is what they come up with is how our assessments go, so.
Do you know where GAR's out of?
I have offices down in the Albany area, I believe, maybe a couple locations, so. So that meeting's coming up. I wanted to mention that, eventually, soon, I hope our charging station will be, starting to, we'll be charging for, people using it. We've allowed free charging for quite a while, but, the bills are getting quite high. So we're gonna have to start recouping a little bit there. We have made some repairs. I believe they're done. I have to check with Scott, but I think the repairs that were needed are done. So we're hoping that we might be able to get a high rate charger there in the future via a grant. I'm talking to Klaus today and he's still waiting to hear, but a lot of that money flows through the feds. Right now, a lot's up in the air,
Yeah.
as
So-
we all know.
So the charger that hasn't been working is still not going to be
No, that
working?
high rate charger
Right.
will,
Yeah.
does
Okay.
not work. It's not going to work. Okay, moving on to old business. I don't have too much to say about 19 minor. We are all waiting for the New York Forward announcements. I talked to my co-chair the other evening and, she had no knowledge of it. She sits on the Regional Economic Development, Committee. They're saying late spring. Kind of think we're there, but. or maybe it's.
Waiting for the DEC grant, that was supposed to be in March. And it
So,
still
yeah.
hasn't been thing one.
So I don't know what the plan is. I know that with the state not having a budget, maybe that's one of the reasons.
I would
why
imagine
The
that's
announcement
what-
has.
It might be waiting to distract people. Once the budget gets passed, then they need some
Go on a
press
tour.
events to like.
Well,
distract people.
that could very well be, but. So that's all I have on 19 minor, other than that the developer has been in town and is expected to be back at some point.
Yes, I think their plan was to come to the joint meeting.
Okay,
On the 30th?
Mhm.
that'd be interesting. I gotta make sure it's on the agenda. The village is in charge of that now. And it's our turn, so. Okay, the sewer project. There were, the monthly report, it was there. The big piece is, we hope to close with, EFC, on the 24th, on or about the 24th of this month. That gets us to 0% interest for a 30-year loan. That will pay off the bond anticipation notes that we have now. At the same time, plans have all been submitted to, DEC. And now they go through their process for approval.
Which
Along-
could take
4 to 6 months.
4 to 6 months,
Is what the
which
report says.
would be really unfortunate if it does.
So going to
Take that
bid
long.
on that will be held up until
Yeah.
we get the final and any changes that might need to be
You know.
made, so.
They've already seen them, so
Good.
optimistically they're a little quicker than that.
Okay. And then the project budget is, you see a spreadsheet there of the current budget.
Mhm.
You have any questions for, board have anything for Tim? Anna's been heavily involved in this too. Okay. The other item I left on here was, the smoke shop resolution. We, right now our attorney is still out of town. I expect him back, I think sometime later this month. Ryan has, sent, a sample to, him for review also
Okay,
of a possible, local law that we could use.
okay,
Good.
So,
Good, good.
I think that we'll just keep that on the agenda.
yeah,
Yeah.
perfect.
Yep.
And,
That would be good.
talk about it as time goes by here, so.
Okay. Cool.
Okay, next item is new business. I need a motion to authorize payment of vouchers and transfer of funds.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thanks, Kara, for going through bills again.
No problem.
Thank you, Karen.
Next item is to approve the slate of officers elected by the Canton Fire Department. This is something that is, we are required to do to approve, when leadership changes there.
Yeah.
The resolution, well, I sent to you, the list of the, current, or the current elected people. I need a motion to approve those.
Do we need to name them off at all?
Chief Sean McGregor, first assistant chief was Stephen Carey, the second assistant was Eric Johnson, and the third was Dan Holcomb. They were elected on Friday, April 4th by the membership. But it does require our approval.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Does anyone oppose? Next item.
Busy.
Next item is, to approve Canton Fire Department member Nolan Bombard.
So
Who
moved.
was a member and has come back.
I was gonna say, I thought I saw that
Mhm.
before. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Anyone opposed? The next item is to approve hiring a new police officer, Christopher Page. And that would be effective June 2nd. The idea is he has passed all the background, physical, psychological, everything. So it's a complete package now. And we can recommend him being hired. The effective date puts him a couple of weeks ahead of an academy starting. And what we would plan on doing is having him here personally and introduce him at the May meeting.
Yeah.
And swear him in at that point.
Yeah, we had a very thorough search and I'm really pleased, with Christopher as a candidate. I think he interviewed really well. I think he's strong, he's very invested, in this work, and is a grounded person. So I'm excited for him to join the team.
I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
In a second.
And just because we've done a bunch of safety committee things, I just want to take a second to thank the fire department. It has been a really busy month. There've been 3 major fires. And we have a group of volunteers, who, right, they rise to the occasion, and are leaving in the middle of the night and, helping to save property and people. So, much appreciation to the Canton Fire Department as of late.
Okay, do I have a motion
Second.
and a second? All in favor to hire Christopher?
Sorry, I was right in the middle of it.
I know,
Sorry. You could just tell me.
that's okay. And nobody opposes, so there you go. Next item is hazard mitigation resolution. That bounced around a little bit today. Do you want to address it?
I can, sure, it's, Barton and Lejudas is working on hazard mitigation grant program application for the stormwater project. And, this is one of the requirements, is to 30th, I believe. The village will be submitting it, but they're completing, the majority of the input into the application, so this is just one of the, documents that's needed, approving the application, and if awarded, giving you authority to sign documents and things of that nature. I think Tim is mentioning there as the administrator and gives him permission to do reimbursement requests, and outlines potential funding. That's it.
This is part of the process that's really needed to be ready for future funding from FEMA. As a result of some of the storm damage. We were advised that being further ahead down the road made a big difference for applicants, so we're trying to dot these i's and cross the t's.
Yeah, so just to note, this is for the mitigation measures to increase flow capacity for Judson, Farmer, Cleveland, Goodrich, Milden, Court, State, Pearl, and Chapel. Discharging to the ground, all the way to the river. Prevent backflow related flooding through the storm system and reduce flood risk for large portions of the village. So just to be clear, like what we are, we are asking for the full $7.1 million for that and crossing our fingers. And as the mayor said, I want to say it was last year, it might have even been the year before, we signed on to the county's hazard mitigation plan, and our having done that and our having the pre-engineering done already, and like all the work that we have been doing has, I think, us in good shape for this. So
Ready.
we're at least ready, and we'll see.
We hope to start design work too,
Yes.
because that will also
Right.
make a big difference, so.
Good.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Thank you.
Next item is an Arbor Day proclamation for the 25th of this month. It's something we do on an annual basis. It helps us with funding and the tree people really like we're Tree City USA, and that doesn't say this past year, but it is, so. So I need a motion to declare that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, next item was to approve summer recreation hires. They're listed there with the rates that they would be paid. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
You had some good interviews.
A lot of them, yeah.
A lot. I was gonna say that was an impressive pool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and some of them had to teach us a game.
Yeah.
And it was good.
That's
You'd be
great.
surprised.
I think we had 35 applications before the deadline and probably about a dozen after the deadline, so they were quick to get erased from the file. And a lot of people applied for most.
Yeah, but that's it,
It was good. It was every position very competitive. It was not an easy decision for any one of them, so.
Great.
it was good.
Yep.
Well, thank you for doing all of that work.
Okay, next item, to discuss the village budget, if there was anything left to discuss about it. If there isn't, we have some options, we had a meeting scheduled for the 24th, that I can't make, I'll be out of town. So if that, if we have nothing else to discuss. We had scheduled the final vote at a special meeting at 8 in the morning on the 30th.
30th of this day.
Yes, it is, but this will take 5 minutes.
Oh, I
for
know.
that. So we can let it sit until that date, what the board would like to do?
Well, we surely don't need to meet on the 24th, right?
No,
I mean, is it an option for us to do it right now?
Right. I
Yes, it
realize
We have no
doesn't say there and take action, so I don't know if
Well,
that means we can't.
we can, you can make a motion to approve the budget for. We've got no public
No
comment.
public comment.
In public comment, we would take into consideration that if there isn't any, then.
That's right.
Right.
And it's under the tax cap.
So.
It's under the tax cap, there's no override of the tax cap, less than 1%.
We I mean, we went through
Make a
it.
motion,
We-
baby.
I'll make a motion to,
Approve the
Approve the
budget
budget.
for 25-26.
indeed.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? There you go.
Wow, I never get to take a meeting off my calendar.
Diggity, right?
Good day,
And you're
it
getting
is.
two off. You're getting two off.
Technically.
Right, the
that's what we
25th,
got
yeah.
that.
Okay,
Tomorrow off.
Very good. Yeah, exactly. Great job.
Great work.
we have, next item is the, joint meeting between the village and town board. It's on the, 30th at 6. I've worked on an agenda. I will also add, the, developer to that. I think I may have, but
And 64 Main's on the agenda.
yes, yes,
Okay. Just checking.
yep, it's on there. Paving and, what's been presented from the sustainability committee.
Mhm.
If you have anything else that you need on there, let me know. Jay was taken care of with the Waterworth presentation. And K is Village, 2025 NBRC resolution. Doo-doo.
Do you want to say something about it? Do you want me to? I mean, you're
By all
welcome to.
means.
You are our resident expert here.
So we had submitted a pre-application for funding through the Northern Regional Commission, which we've done to before for water projects, so we are going back again. Trying to get funding to do our next water project, which is the replacement of the transmission main. And looping the dead ends on Sullivan and Riverside
Correct.
distribution system, so. It's over a $9 million project. We were invited to apply for 2 million. So that is due this Friday, and that is a required document again for the application, resolution approving the application and giving their permissions to sign and those.
So you want to go for the 2 million?
Yes, please. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That passes. I have one more opportunity for public comment. Once? Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, Toby Irvin, Irish Settlement Road. I have two issues to bring forward. One is a question to which I would like an answer, and I know this is not the time for answering questions. So if you could take my question and respond later, I would appreciate that. And this is, my first one is not the question. My first is with regard to the overall concept of planning for town and village. This is not being critical of any activity or person that is currently engaged. Isn't it time for the village to engage in a planning operation to get planning? We need additional staff. There's no question about that in my mind. And we need a planning activity that enables us to generate ideas more quickly, bring them to fruition, work with funding sources perhaps outside what we currently do. I've been somewhat involved in the notion or in the community of Ogdensburg for a number of years. They had a planning operation over there that was doing great things and moving that city forward. When I worked in the village, in the city of Ogdensburg, we did not have that. Planners can bring a great deal of clarity to the kinds of problems we face. And I don't think it's a budget issue. That's why I didn't bring it up earlier, that public comment period. But I think this community is on the cusp of doing some really good things. But we need to have structured planning. And I don't, we need to know there's a place to go for that. And I just don't see that happening. So I would encourage you to embrace that notion. And I work around the fringes on some areas where planning is done, some of the other activities I'm interested in. But I think we need a global planning organization. Seems to me it's a candidate for a joint operation between town and village. My question is in regard to the reval. No one has been able to explain to me why we're doing it, other than to check off a box for the state. We have communities in this county which have a equalization rate that is in the single digits, and nobody seems to care or mind or anything else. If we're doing it to generate a tick box for the state, why? It seems to me that we have expertise in this community to do a reval based on good data and good expertise and work. Why are we hiring a company that has already gotten a bad reputation for having done 2 communities and presented more problems than they did solutions? So I'd really like to know why we're doing this reval based on the experience of these other 2 communities.
I'll respond to you one.
Thank you.
Is there anything
Um,
else? Any other?
Okay,
We'll respond to him. Public comment isn't time for response.
okay.
Thanks, Cindy. Is there any other comment? Going once, going twice? That's it. I need a motion to go into executive session for a personnel issue.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, well, thank you everyone for coming.
Woo! Letters of support. Need them for NBRC too?